Hello, welcome to Illegal Knowledge. My name is Michael Oatman.
I'm Captain Paul Flowers, American Resistance Army.
And I'm Alon Snitkin.
And tonight we have an episode for you entitled... Is
what?
it? It's Common Law versus Compelled Performance. Compelled Performance versus Common Law, which, you see, if one were to bring suit against the other, common law would be the defendant. So, Compelled Performance versus Common Law. Anyway, this has to do about people being subjugate under a rule of law, which is not God's law, not under the Magna Carta. There were certain laws formed under the Constitution. There were more laws formed thereafter, and much later, in 1933, there was this whole other system of laws proposed, the Uniform Commercial Code, which established essentially admiralty law on the continent. Now, admiralty law is something that you have when you're out at sea. When you're the captain of the ship, you can throw somebody overboard because they pissed you off or something like that. You know, when you're under that sort of law, you are subjugate to perform certain duties because of simply your obligation under the law. If you, say, get a driver's license, because you have this benefit of a driver's license, you're compelled to perform all these things that are not necessary under common law.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, that's what we're currently operating under. This is why that we have a police state currently. Pretty much. I mean, would you...
Well, as I understand the difference between the early 20th century development of admiralty law versus common law under the Magna Carta and the Constitution of the United States, is once we became a corporatized industrial world, there had to be a set of laws set up in place that dealt with the human beings under those corporate trading agreements.
That's your legal fiction.
That could be to where those human beings were held accountable as capital, as a source of capital. It ostensibly, most of the most paranoid things that I hear about Uniform Commercial Code and the whole sovereignty movement is that if you don't register yourself as a UCC sovereign, that you are a slave. That alone is compelled performance on part of the sovereignty movement. Yeah. That's compelled performance, because the true understanding of sovereignty as presented to us by the Declaration of Independence,
which means we're naturally that way,
is we are granted these rights by the fact of our existence.
It's
That's
not
what
an opt-in.
It's not an opt-in. You are neither opting in nor opting out of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, and it doesn't matter what country you were born in, the United States recognizes those rights for you. The Uniform Commercial Code...
To do otherwise would be criminal on their part.
Right. The Uniform Commercial Code created the legal fiction that you were enslaved to begin with.
Yes.
And so the compelled performance, especially from... I call them the money-seeking lone gunmen, is what I call them, because it's very expensive to get the materials to understand the nebulous world of the Uniform Commercial Code, and really none of it applies to you. Unless you are an American citizen on a South African-owned boat flying a Turkish flag who killed a German, then the Uniform Commercial Code directly applies to you. But
because that's maritime law.
Because that's maritime law. You're already in an international environment. If sovereignty is what you're thinking about, if you apply for sovereignty under the Uniform Commercial Code, then you're acknowledging the validity of the servitude that the corporatized federal government system has already placed you under.
So now what's really interesting, actually, if you all read the show notes, we're supposed to have me and a bunch of other UCC people here. Neither of you have filed your financial statements for UCC, right? Well, I have. but back in 2003, and I can't find anyone in Tucson anymore. There was a little cabal, if you will, a group of people that were, trading ideas, sharing them, and whatnot. And they've, either been killed or died or something or left, and it seems that the movement is kind of dead. And it's, and I think that's probably fair considering number one, they were trying to orchestrate the takeover of the Treasury, which is not what I wanted to do. I just simply wanted, if the state was going to charge me, they can charge me. They do not charge my commercial liability and hold my commercial liability for ransom. I was completely on that whole trip of and why should I allow that? But at the same time, I mean,
the movement was never more than a dog and pony show.
Honestly, it
was a dog and pony show, as is all of these single answer movements that have been going on. Every single one of them, they're a dog and pony show. No one American or no group of Americans is going to find the answer to the problem of the American dilemma by looking at any single answer, any single base or source of the problem. We're all following that Hegelian dialect of problem, reaction, solution. And that failed. That failed a long time ago. And if we, the sovereignty movement is using the basis of law to fight against the basis of the corporate boardroom, which is like trying. Yeah, it's it's like going into a courtroom and complaining that Starbucks charges too much for their coffee,
or for that matter, complaining that there's a gold leaf around the flag.
Right. If the real decisions that are made are being made in corporate boardrooms and are corporate contracts, that's one of the big problems that none of us are paying attention to, and the sovereignty movement doesn't pay attention to either, because it doesn't have to do with the Treasury. The Treasury's been bankrupt for decades. And what it has to do with is a corporatized, a corporate federal system. We don't live in a country anymore, we live in a company. And to battle that, we need to use these corporate practices, which if you don't recognize that Starbucks coffee is good, you just stop buying it. You just stop buying it. You stop working.
Well, to clarify something, though, the United States is the corporation, whereas these United States of America is the nation. And the United States in all capital letters is the corporate, the
state of
Delaware of
So what exactly is our individual commercial liability?
But it's your name in all capital letters. It's your legal fiction.
Yes. What that means is
our ability to copyright.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not even that. With it comes a whole lot of things. Again, this is compelled performance. Because you can do these things, you have to abide by these set of laws.
I think a better way to describe it would be when you were born in the United States of America as incorporated in the state of Delaware in 1863, when you are born into that, you have a set amount of asset value. Your life is going to be worth approximately $1.9 million through the course of your development and your growth.
That's become a lot more recently.
Yeah. That's what's been basing the value of the American economy, which is currently collapsing because that entire basis system is flawed to begin with.
We've gone on to fiat currency.
And yeah, exactly. And you are that fiat currency. You are the fiat that is that currency, and that's your legal
It's no longer the gold. It's if you think of the Matrix, it's the actual cells, the people themselves, who are now the basis of the,
it's a speculation.
The gold.
It's a stock market speculation.
I mean, we could talk about Frank Baum and whatnot, but we're not going to get into that.
The Federal Reserve makes
we'll be taking calls. Should put up the numbers.
The Federal Reserve puts a speculative bet on your overall productivity through your life, and based on that speculative bet, that's that much more money that the economy says, that the Treasury says that they have to put into the Federal Reserve System to turn into the Federal Reserve paper notes. And that's an issue that's a dead issue, really, and now is little more than a distraction. Politically, today, these things are distracting people from what we really need to be putting our focus into.
The distractions are what did Obama's preacher say?
Yeah, exactly. We've got all of these different distractions. Yeah, they're infinite. Exactly. These distractions are infinite.
And as many as distractions as you want. The point is to somehow dissuade people from looking at what is going on.
So what I want to say let me try my best to dissuade you from going to the internet and spending another 8 hours on the internet looking at all of the bad stuff that is going to happen in the future, maybe or maybe not,
well, we're looking
and start looking at, we're looking at so many different possibilities right now that you need to be talking to your neighbor. You need to walk next door. You need to, when you are done watching this show, you need to walk out your front door and go next door, knock on your neighbor's door, and say,
not everybody wants it once, because you'll all go down one house and then they won't be home.
Communities need to start getting together. Communities need to start, because I'll tell you, FEMA's plans for economic disaster in the United States and the Arizona Department of Homeland Security's plans for economic disaster in the United States are absolutely horrific.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
let's put
horrific.
ourselves into concentration
There
camps.
are 17 tent cities outside of Los Angeles right now. How long before they're in the streets of Tucson too?
Well, they are.
They closed the tent city down. People are sleeping in washes right now.
On the south side of Prince at the freeway.
Is there a tent city down there?
Well, it's gated. If you look at which way the fence goes.
Oh, that's the old tent city that they ran out in 2005. I think.
Well,
they closed
but the
it down.
point is you can go look around. If you see a fence pointing inwards, like let's say
that's standard. That's standard.
It's, or both ways, where you have a.
So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is we need to sit down as a community, and we need to figure out where we're going to put our assets and our resources together to come up with an alternative response that's going to be effective, ensure the comfort of the most amount of people, the least destabilization of our way of life, because if there's no electricity in Tucson, I can assure you there's not going to be any running water either, and we need to figure these things out. We need to figure out, what are you going to do next week when your next door neighbor and his family of 4 get their home foreclosed on and they don't have anywhere to go? What are you going to do when it's half the people on your street? What are you going to do when it's a quarter of the people in Tucson?
And
what are we going to do?
will take over,
What are we going to do when that happens? We can't let a government that has already proved itself to be wholly ineffective at responding to any level of any disaster of any kind at any point in history without lying about it and hurting people in the process and making sure that the least of these are left the farthest behind. How can we trust them to respond to what's going on with the economy? How can we trust them to respond to what's going on with the threat of international terrorism when there are still way too many questions out there if there's even really an international terrorist threat, and if we were really attacked by Muslims on 9/11.
Well, obviously, I heard in the news the other day that your chances of dying from a terrorist attack are something like the same as your chances of dying from overeating peanuts.
Yeah,
and the chances of dying from stress about worrying about terrorism are like getting way up there, like way better than winning the lottery, or it's like roughly 10 times more likely than you would. You have a chance of dying from worrying about the fact of terrorism and causing yourself an ulcer, than actually dying by result of a terrorist attack. Which it's kind of. We can look at 9/11, we can look at the last successful terrorist attack, I believe, was those people in the rowboat that blew themselves up on the Cole.
I was at the Cole.
They didn't sink the ship.
I was in Yemen when the Cole happened in 2000. I was actually one of the investigating officers for that incident, and Yeah, there's a lot of questions around the coal bombing as well, but as far as I can tell, that was
it just let's happen?
That was the last time. That was the last time that we experienced something of any real degree as far as an honest terror attack that I've seen.
Because, I mean, the towers were brought down as a result of internal demolition.
So anyway, but that's a side point.
Yeah,
what my point is,
let's take some calls since we have.
What my point is, let me make this one point.
You got to press the number.
We need to get together and we need to talk about what we're going to do because the government isn't going to do it for us.
Oh, of course not. I'm
going to go ahead. I'm going to pull up this caller.
Welcome. Hey. You're on Illegal Knowledge.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, what's up?
You know, it boils down to that old cliche that came out of the movie Network.
Yes.
Where all the people
I'm mad as hell.
Stuck their heads out the window and said, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore."
And
you know, the only way that's going to happen is telling one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's on the other hand, there's a lot of people out there. Even after they see the truth, it scares them.
Yeah.
You know, that old statement. Last night I saw upon the stair the little man who wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't there again today. Oh, gee, I wish he'd go away. So it's explaining the truth to the people, but at the same time, you've got to get the people upset. You've got to get the people to the point where they're realizing that this really does affect them personally.
Well, I mean, when gas prices aren't enough, apparently.
Yeah, well, everyone's sitting back and waiting for someone else to fix it. See, they're looking to the government, and the government is that little man on the stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's not going to go away. He's going to be there every day.
Yeah. And I'll tell you.
Astute, Bill.
I'll tell you, like right now already. I mean, I'm still an intelligence analyst. I may not be doing it for the U.S. Department of Defense anymore. I may be an American Resistance Army officer, but I'm still an intelligence analyst. And from what I've been looking at already, in Boston, Massachusetts, they've cut out soup kitchens and food stamp benefits because they don't have the money for it anymore. There's housing riots happening in Palm Coast, Florida, where groups of 500 people have to be broken up with tear gas and water cannons because the Department of Urban Housing Development runs out of paper applications.
Yeah.
And already, you know, the tent cities in Los Angeles, and now they're talking about the threat of domestic terrorism and all of this stuff. It's already on our heads. It's already coming down on top of us.
One of their biggest enemies is access television.
Yeah, of course.
They hate the fact
the bomb has already gone off.
A common person can get on TV and show people the other side of the story. So, well, listen, I'll let you guys go, but don't forget about the little man on the stair. He's not going away. He's going to be there every time you look at the stairway.
What do you think happens to all the UCC people? Did he hang
doesn't
up?
know.
Oh, I guess we lost him.
I think he hang up, yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, people are dying more from stress and the worrying than they are the actual events. I think that we need to see things from a point of view and not stress at the same time and worry, because that clouds how we see things, and we need to see things through. We don't need to dissociate ourselves from ourselves, but to just see things as they are without.
Well, and the whole point of the UCC thing was to get the Treasury account, because what did you say, 1.8 million? I mean, is more like 4 point something today, because that was back in what 1860. Was it?
What he just said.
The point is that the whole movement was about getting the UCC3 financing statement, and getting your Treasury account, and taking over the Treasury and defunding the government in that way. That doesn't seem to be valid considering the worth of the dollar now.
No, and what he said was a really beautiful point that I can't stress enough, and I see a caller. You're on the line, and I'll push the line right after this sentence.
We work together.
Is when you're driving down the street in your car, you're not constantly afraid that you're going to get in a head-on collision. Why? Because you have insurance on your car, and if your car gets beaten to crap, then the insurance company is going to cover it. We spend so much time worrying about the unknowns right now. Oh my God, nuclear terrorism. Oh my God, Iran. Oh my God, World War III. Oh my God, economic collapse. When none of us are actually sitting down and rationally discussing what any of this might look like and figuring out something to do to where we can respond to it, then we don't have to worry. If you have an insurance policy, you don't have to worry. You don't wait until you get into a head-on collision to pull out a policy on your car. You expect that somebody might be stupid and run you over, so you go ahead and get a policy. I'm going to go ahead and put line 1 on the air. Caller, you've been waiting the longest.
Welcome, you're on Illegal Knowledge.
Hi.
Hi.
At my apartment, there's these Russian people, and I'm going to whoop their ass and go to jail.
Why?
What?
Sorry?
I'm going to whoop their ass and go to jail.
That doesn't sound smart, but I wish you the best of luck.
All right. Yeah.
Hey,
let's
caller,
take
how's it
another
going?
one.
Hey, fine.
Hi.
Just got to say thanks, guys. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of truths. It's kind of scary, but appreciate it.
Well, scary might be that, I mean, the way that it's going right now, I'd say by August, you say by May? Jeez, I don't know.
Maybe.
The dollar is plummeting. It's ridiculous.
Right.
The question is putting your money into gold if you even have any money, because thanks, I lost my job. Thanks, outsourcing, what do you do? I suggest that we all come together, and you are totally on this. Mm-hmm. I had suggested that we get rid of valuation. Like, you just get rid of money, but not only money, but not barter, not anything. Just get rid of valuation. And we all produce what we have. Here, I have this to contribute. Because you have that, you get everything that the rest of everybody else has.
And what I've been trying to say is we need to come together right now and talk about the things rationally that are facing us in the near-term future. This year, we need to talk about the things that we might face this year as a community and how we're going to respond to them.
Mm-hmm. And with everybody. Talk to your neighbors.
That is what the function of a good militia is. A good militia is not a group of people that are a bunch of drunk rednecks out in the woods shooting guns at anything that moves. A good militia is a group of people that have come together out of the citizens to provide a service for the public welfare that they do not see the government providing and see needs to be put in place. That, I think, is that's the definition of a good militia. That includes defending your own neighbors against a tyrannical government, if necessary.
Yeah.
And
that's written in the Constitution, in the Declaration of Independence.
I missed the beginning of your show. Okay, now that's tying that in.
Yeah.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
Well,
and what about since we've had all these new laws enacted? They can't override the supreme law, the Constitution?
But they are.
Well, you see, what's going on is they've superseded the common law with this thing called admiralty law. And that's sort of what the show is about. And originally I was going to have some people who had done their financial statements on UCC, on the Uniform Commercial Code, and I could explain to you what that, but it's sort of a moot point anymore. But you can go look it up, and unless you're talking to your neighbors, do look this up online. The Uniform Commercial Code, because it is important. And look under Black's Law Dictionary and understand what all these things are about, because it is actually sort of important. And but the responsibility of what you have to your neighbors is so much more important. And that's really what I wanted to drive home anyway. And I think
I'm a combat veteran, and I can assure you that when you're in the combat field, the politics of the war mean nothing. Nothing. The guy next to you, the guy fighting next to you means everything.
Yeah.
And there is nothing more than that. And really, the sovereignty, UCC sovereignty movement is a way of choosing your own side. But as a people right now, as Americans right now, as Americans, peoples, yes, as a plural, as a peoples, we need to pick a side because we're losing our country. It's turning into a corporation. We're losing it. If we want to keep the country that we thought we were born in, if we want to keep the country that we know our grandfathers were born in,
that we lived in,
if we want to keep that, we're going to have to start doing something now to be able to keep it. Otherwise, we're going to lose it forever. We go the sovereign. You choose your own side. If everybody chooses their own side, nobody's got each other's back. Because if you're on your own side, guess what? Nobody else is on your side. You're on your own. We need to come together. You know, in 1774, the founding fathers took the British flag down because they knew they couldn't fly it anymore. They knew they couldn't live underneath what that flag stood for. So they took that flag down. They didn't put the American flag up. It didn't exist yet. They wanted to make a statement. They wanted to say something. So what did they do? They made their political statement into a flag. Don't tread on me. What happens when you step on a rattlesnake? It bites you. I think this is a good banner for the American people to come together under right now.
You know, my family history.
We have 30 seconds, so hurry.
Okay, I think it was my sixth great grandfather was in the Revolutionary War, and the notes they talk about mustering on the village green and taking inventory of who was there and what ammo and powder they had. And okay, guys, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Right on, right on. Thank you for
one last
your
caller.
insights. No, we don't have time. But in the last 10 seconds, thank you for watching. In 2 weeks,
www.uaff.us. www.uaff.us.
Bye, everybody.